What is going on, everyone? This is Logan with West Desert Wheeler, and welcome back to the North vs. South Utah RC Crawling Championship. In today's video, we're going to be looking at a couple of unlimited class runs at the North Round 1 event out there at Little Moab. Before we go too far, I need to send a huge shout out and thank you to our event sponsors, who include G-Speed, Shift RCs, Rock Pirates RC, Reefs RC, UC Fab, West Valley Hobbies, Sky RC, Radz Hobbies, Axial, Element, Deez Company, and Spec RC. Thanks so much to all of those guys who help make our raffles possible that we host at every event. When you purchase an entry and get a score sheet, you are handed a raffle ticket, and at noon we give away a ton of awesome prizes donated by our excellent sponsors. So thank those guys very much for what they do to help make these events over the top, special, and give everyone a chance to get some awesome parts. In today's run, you're going to be looking at my own car, which is a Sportsman car, a 2.2 Sportsman, which specifically has a transmission and a motor mounted in the chassis with drive shafts out to the axles. Then we're going to be following that up with course number 2, where we're going to see a run from a world champion 2.2 pro driver, meaning a motor on axle car. So it has 2 motors and 2 transmissions built into the axles on the car. And we have Jake Wright, who's going to run one of our courses. And man, it is a hell of a run. I gotta say, Jake is one excellent driver that is kind of inarguable at this point when he has world champion trophies on the shelf. So it's gonna be a fun video. Let's go check this out and take a look at a couple runs in our unlimited classes here. I will say these are the most difficult courses we've set at a North vs. South event, which feels pretty good when I found out Jake showed up so that, you know, he had something interesting to play with and didn't just run through every gate without an issue. Or maybe he did. We will find out. Let's check out these runs. Here we are getting started. Again, this is my Sportsman car. This is a 5th dimension chassis, and it is the Sucker Punch chassis. And then I've got this one on Capra axles. It has Extreme Route huge pin tires are the tires that I'm using on there. So they're actually very tall. They're a pin tire, nothing scale about these. Has dual stage foams with 2.2 inch G10 beadlock wheels, so pretty cool. Now, cruise through gate 1 here, and then we're gonna drop into gate 2, which was really nasty. I climbed down below before I moved on in the course, and I had been giving people advice on how to get across gate 2 all day, and then it came time for me to put my money where my mouth was and see if I could do it, which I was a little bit worried about. So here we are dropping in, trying to stay as high as I could towards that arrow cone. Any further down and you run the risk of rolling down a 15 to 20 foot crack ravine that could easily break your car if it comes off the wall here. So just trying to get that front end to settle. I'm real worried that the rear is going to come down and unsettle the car. Luckily with Sportsman cars, you have so much weight up front, I was able to pull out of there nice and clean. So I'm trying to swing wide headed into gate number 3. I want my left rear tire to climb up right where that driver front is, and maybe not quite as close to the cone, but I'm trying to use that ramp next to the 3 cone to get that left rear to climb up. And it starts to climb. I start to get light on the front end, and unfortunately, because of the resistance of the ledge, the car unloads and falls down. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a reverse here. So as I go through that reverse, I barely miss that cone again, but I take full advantage of the reverse and back up a ways away from the gate where I'm trying to get, and try basically the same approach, not quite as extreme, getting that as close to the number 3 gate. I try a little bit of throttle momentum and it just doesn't work out for me. And I know that we've got a 6-minute time limit on these unlimited courses, so I decided, you know what, I'll take the gate and move on. I'd rather take one gate than DNF the course, and every gate you don't finish at our events is 15 points versus 10 points to kill one. So all in all, it's much better to kill one gate and keep moving down the course. Gate 4 was a fun one. It's like this weird arch over a pocket, and then you have to drive up essentially on 2 tires. Here's what I did. Taking an unfortunate rollover, but no points added on, and the car landed back the correct side up, so can't really complain about that. Headed on up into gate number 5. This is a steep, a little bit off camber just as far as my approach goes, using the Reefs 777 servo to settle the car down. That is a 3S direct power servo, and I'm a big fan of that one. It works out really good. So again, another steep climb here, but we're gonna be dealing with a little bit of a crack. And then on the left side, the wall gets even steeper. So you're going up on an off camber that gets more off camber the further up you go. So pretty wild there. That right rear is getting a little closer than I might want to that aero cone, but we're able to clean and get through there. Now we've done ourselves a bit of a, make things more challenging line through here. So I set a gate out here on this ledge, and then we also put a boundary line for the next gate. So you have to make a 90-degree right-hand corner out of that. And right there, that left rear had started to get unsettled as I turned and drove down the hill. That's because there's a ton of overdrive, the tall tires, and the portals. The car likes to dogleg because it's a little too light in the rear end right now. So that's something I may need to tune on this car. Now we've got to make an aggressive 90-degree corner up this wall. I was trying to get the camera over to see where the cone was at. And there's a boundary line just off my driver tire. I decided to take one reverse because if I drive into that boundary line, it is 10 points added onto my score, and a reverse is just 1 point added onto my score. So it's a pretty good exchange there as long as you can make it stick. I was able to, and we cruise up and out of that next gate. Now I've got to hike back up to where my car is, which I politely asked Zach from Utah County Crawler to pause the time while I get back up behind my car. And of course, Zach helped me out there. So right here, we're gonna jump down and try and get an optional line here, which is a bonus line on this course. I already bypassed the first bonus on this course. It was an extremely steep and big drop, which this car has a ton of forward weight bias, and I just didn't think that my car would do well on that. So I bypassed it because it is optional. On our scoring system, if you hit a bonus, it is positive 10 to your score, but if you clean one, it is negative 10 to your score. So you do not want to hit a bonus if you don't think you can make it. You might as well drive around. So taking one more approach here after a reverse, using that servo again to shift the car kind of where I want to. That Reef's 777, trying to get these tires to unhook, but they are just really locked onto this rock. And as that front driver starts to come up, the right rear has that little hole down in there that's just going to try and rotate the car and try and unsettle that suspension. I can tell that this car is very unhappy and is about to roll down a big long hill, and I don't want that to happen. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to take a second reverse and get out of here, save myself the time, make sure I finish the course, and not pick up any more points in an attempt to get through a bonus, which I might not make. So trying to drive up in there, thanks to the large amount of overdrive in the portal gears there, able to get that front end to pop up and then cruise through the crack. You may have noticed the rear of my car is actually a bit narrower than the front, so that's because you can steer the front axle around the cones and the rear is just getting dragged through. Across 10, which is sideways through a crack, which is never easy, get the rears through, and that is the end of my run for Unlimited. So feeling pretty good about that. I ended up getting 14 points on that course, and then on the other course, I got 14 points as well. It was the first weekend with my car. Not the absolute perfect run, but you know what? Pretty happy overall with the performance, and the car held up great, and I had a lot of fun on course. Now it's time to go over and check out Jake Wright run our other Unlimited course here with his 2.2 Pro car. Let's check out Jake dodge some cones. All right, here we go. I am judging while recording, so some of the views may not be the best, but I was also trying not to, get too all up in his space where he's trying to drive and compete. So trying to give him a little bit of room where possible, and not have my toes run over as he's doing his U-turns and whatnot out here, dodging cones. So gate number one, already had to just flip the car around, get a U-turn, and correct and get back on the correct line. Now, this is one thing I want to kind of point out about Jake as a driver, is that he's able to recover out of situations without acquiring points. So instead of backing up, he's able to maneuver his car and get away from the gates and swing back around and get a new approach, generally without acquiring more points, which is really impressive. That's the difficult thing to do. And being a world champion, I would say he has mastered that ability. I've also gone out and drove at Nationals in 2022. Jake was there, and I believe he took 2 of the first place trophies home. So I've seen him in action out on course before, and I thought it was really cool he came out to one of our events. He traveled a bit of ways to come out and do this, so I hope he had a good time out there. He did remark that he hadn't seen lines as long as our events. at an event in quite some time for an RC crawl. So I took that as a compliment, meaning there's quite a lot of people out here in Utah that enjoy the RC crawling competition side of things, and I agree. I think it's super cool that we are able to get the crowds that we do. Check out how Jake is able to recover this. By the way, that nose wheelie out of that bonus line was ridiculous and was awesome. So able to just shift this car off the right side of that line, you know, just board slide that rock on the way out of there, and then try a totally different approach on the way up here. One thing about this car, I've actually picked it up and he gave me the opportunity to drive it after this run. It is incredibly lightweight. Even though it has brass weight hangers up front, the rest of the car is extremely lightweight. I think this car, like ready to run, is below 4 pounds, which 2 motors and 2 transmissions on the axle plus brass weight hangers, to be under that 4 pound mark is incredible. This thing is really cool. Now, I don't have an exact weight on it, but I remember him saying it was very light, and I felt it. It is very light. So super cool. And it's also not a new car from what I understand. It's been around for a while. I think it's around 10 years old if I'm not mistaken. So pretty interesting to see a car that you know, goes out there and still kicks some ass, but it is not like the latest and greatest technology per se. It's cool to see that, you know, with even with some of the older stuff, you're still able to go out there and be extremely competitive. So headed up that awesome little crack there. It's a left turn. Now he's up on top of this ledge, and we've got a boundary line between where his car is. You can see that chalk line going down to that arrow cone, and we don't want anybody to fall down that ledge below that. We're kind of forcing them to go high up on the ledge and then dip down on the way in there. So Jake kind of staying balanced real high up in there, and then he runs into the wall, and then he turns out of it, throttles out. He's upside down, which these MOAs, the tires are still in contact with the ground, and upside down, everything's reversed. So if you push forward on the throttle, the car goes backwards. If you steer left, the axle turns right. So it's really difficult to drive like this, and certainly not easy. But in our competitions, if your car is upside down, we do not count reverses for points as you're trying to upright your vehicle. So no reverses were added there, and Jake was able to get his car uprighted without accruing any extra points, and he cleaned the gate. So pretty amazing stuff there. You can see quite a lot of steering angle as he's dipping down in here. One thing I should mention for people unfamiliar with motor on axle cars is that you are able to do front wheel drive only or rear wheel drive only if you want to. And it's basically just an electric switch on the controller to where you can say, hey, spin my front tires only, and then you can, as much throttle as you want or as little, it will do that. It will follow the normal throttle curve. So pretty cool, extremely capable cars. These are built 100% for performance only. And obviously no scale looks to them, but they're awesome little machines and super fun to drive. So here we are headed down to gate number 10, which we have one more boundary line on here, and then we set a cone just close enough to the crack that you don't want to really drive through the crack. You want to get up on the right side, but then we put the boundary line to where there's not quite enough room to drive along up top there. So you end up in this sideways motion and shifting the servo along, and you want to hang on to the ledge just enough not to fall off, but not too far to hit the boundary. Excellent run by Jake there. A perfect 2 bonus course with no reverses. So way to go, Jake. Thank you for coming out to the event. I would greatly appreciate you letting me record your run as well and sharing it with all of my audience. So I hope you guys enjoyed this content. Got some unlimited stuff going on out at the North Round 1. I hope you guys enjoy the North vs. South series. I do have a playlist put together where you can see more of the RC crawling competitions that I have done and gone to, so be sure to check out my channel and check out the different playlists that I've made. Thank you guys for your time. Be sure to hit the affiliate links down below. Thank you again to our event sponsors, and we will see you guys in the next one. Keep the rubber side down.